I'll just start, David. If you could just introduce yourself, who
Okay.
you are, what you do.
My name is David Cullis. I'm the managing director and owner of XEBusiness Limited. We're a computer software and services company who've now been trading for just about 23 years.
Amazing. And David, it's been 23 years. I don't know too many people who stayed in the business for 23 years. How do you do it? How do you stay in the business for such a long time?
Well, the business really has been very stable, mainly going to the clients we have, who've also remained with us for a very long time. So I think that really has been the sort of key to the fact that we've survived for so long. We've had a reasonably long list of clients who've stayed with the business. We've taken on a few new ones, and really we've just made sure that the business continues based on obviously a strong cash flow, and also the fact that we take a lot of care in looking after our clients as well.
Okay, so just to unpack two things here.
Yeah.
So in our audience, founders that I speak with
Yes.
and that come to our center, they very often build like business to business software
Yes.
targeted at a small business or enterprise clients.
Yes.
And the cycle to get enterprise client over the line
Yes.
can be quite long,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What would be your recommendation to people who enter this B2B SaaS enterprise market
Yes.
in getting new enterprise clients?
Well, most of our clients happen to be SMEs. These are small to medium-sized enterprises, and we've tended to specialize in dealing with these smaller clients by offering them a lot of very close attention. We have a few, maybe a couple of major accounts, and as you say, the sales cycle in dealing and getting these accounts tends to be quite long.
How long?
It could be 10 months. It could be a year and a half sometimes, where we have to go through a lot of very close contact with them, and proving we can actually handle their requirements. We do demonstrations. We provide proposals. We provide cost estimates. And most importantly, we also provide a very detailed return on investment based on any investment they make with us. So we give them a summary of how long it will take using our systems and our software to recover what they've spent. And that is really quite important.
And can you give me like a picture of the size of the companies you work with?
Probably the biggest company we work with currently turns over around maybe 35 to 40 million pounds. With the smallest company maybe turning over perhaps 2 or 3 million.
Yeah, so that would be like tens or hundreds of people, right?
The bigger company will employ a few hundred people, yes. The smaller companies, could be as little as maybe 10 or 15 people.
And then when you deal with them, obviously there is a lot of like goalkeepers as you go through the sales cycle.
Yes.
Do you have any special techniques to go through the goalkeepers within the cycles?
Most of our leads we get through recommendation. So a lot of the time we don't need, if you like, to cold canvas companies, to get their interest. They tend to approach us, and either usually by email, asking us whether we'd like to pitch for their business. And from that point on, I mean, if we decide to go forward with them, we basically will have access to whichever project team they've appointed to choose a new system for their company, and we then work very closely, with their team to help them get to a buying decision.
Okay, so that comes down to what you said just a minute ago about an excellent customer service, customer care, because then you get this word of mouth going on.
Yes.
And these recommendations, referrals coming through.
Yes.
Just out of interest, is there like any incentive for people to give the recommendation, the referral? It's very popular these days in software world.
Yes.
All these affiliate programs.
Yes.
I just wonder if you reward your customers in any way for referring people to you.
We feel we don't need to do that. Okay. I mean, if a customer is pleased with what you've done for their company, we usually find that they're more than happy to act as references and to provide us with recommendations. So we don't tend to offer them any financial incentive to make the recommendation. It's purely if they're happy with what we've done for them, they will recommend us. And we find that works quite well. Because if a potential client asks us, have you paid this company to give you a reference? We say, no, we don't do that as a matter of policy.
Amazing. Okay. I have a few follow-up questions because
Sure.
we had a chat before this conversation,
of course.
right?
Yeah.
And at the core of every business, especially early on in startup scale-up world, is the founder.
Well, I'll tell you how the company started. I've worked for a lot of large IT corporates since I started with IT, which has been throughout my career. I've been working in IT, but working mainly for computer companies. These are mainly software and hardware companies. And the last company I worked for, the last big corporate, was a company who were listed in the London Stock Exchange. And I was sort of asked to come up to Manchester to run a company which they had just bought, a company called Kewill-Xetal. So I made the trip from London to Manchester to run this company. And I worked with this company I was asked to run and expanded it for about 9 years. We set up an e-commerce business within the company, and that started to grow very quickly in the 90s, working with many large, retail supermarkets. We worked with a technology called EDI, which is electronic data interchange, where a lot of supermarket suppliers started to send the supermarkets information about what they were supplying electronically, as opposed to using paper-based systems. So the savings for these supermarkets were huge in terms of not having to deal with a lot of paperwork. So we bought another 3 EDI companies while I was still working for this large corporate. And at the end of the 90s, I was effectively running about 5 electronic commerce companies in the group. I then decided I wanted to do something on my own. So I got into negotiation with the company I was working for to buy the company in Manchester, which I was first hired to run. And that negotiation was successful. And I managed to buy the company through the MBO route, that's the management buyout route. And we then started running the company during the early part of this century, moving to the Innovation Forum sort of 9 years after we started and that was around 2009.
Okay, I have a lot of questions here.
Yeah, of course.
So what is MBO for people that don't know what's MBO?
An MBO is a management buyout where the management team within a company get together and they make the owner or the group of the company an offer to buy the company out of the group, to run it independently.
Right.
And that's effectively, what I did with the team of people who are working, within that particular company I wanted to buy out at the time. And that was successful. And we managed to buy this company out of the Kewill group and started running it as an independent, privately owned company as from the 1st of December 1999.
Did you acquire this? Was there any team attached to the business?
Yes, we were never a startup. We took the company and all its clients and all its existing business with us, and that included a team of about 9 people who all came across with me into the new company, which we renamed XEBusiness, and that remains our name today.
And how did it feel this moment when you signed the agreement and you knew it's I'm in control now, it's now my baby?
Well,
how did it feel?
It felt great. The MBO took about 3 months to execute in terms of doing a lot of due diligence and doing all the legal and the financial work required to actually get to a point where we sat around the table with a director from the group we were buying the company from and signed everything off. And at the end of that 2-hour session, the company effectively belonged to me and one other shareholder who had made an investment and came in with me. That shareholder at the time just happened to be one of our clients. So one of our clients came in with me to buy the company.
And then if you maybe try to look back, I know it was quite some time ago.
Yeah.
Like, I guess there was quite a lot of negotiations around this buyout.
It took us 3 months, effectively.
Like, discussing, like... And there is a lot of people in our community, in Manchester business community and globally, that look at buying businesses.
Yes.
Right? And there is a lot of negotiations around those businesses, because then you need to finance it. Like, there are like a different arrangements of payback, payout, and shares, revenue share. Like, it's a lot.
Yes.
And there is a lot of negotiations. When you look back at the deal, are there any things you think you could do better?
Not really. We had an advantage in that I was already working in the company, so I knew a lot about the company anyway, in terms of how financially stable it was and who the clients were and who the team was. And obviously the group who owned the company knew me, because I'd worked for them for 9 years. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, we both effectively knew each other and trusted each other. So we were able to do the deal within quite a short period of sort of 3 months. And there was never any particular problem with negotiating that deal. Although if we'd bought a company from a third party we didn't know very well, then obviously it could have been a lot longer than that.
I was about to say 3 months. It's a really short time. To negotiate and finance a purchase of a business. It sounds.
The key factor was the fact that the team already working in the company wanted to come over with me. And that basically swung it. That was the main factor in the group who owned the company, allowing the company to be sold that quickly, because the team were very keen to join me and work with me in the new company.
So it sounds like you are like a great figure to follow, right? For the team to really like want you as a leader for their business. And if we speak about the leadership in the business for like SME kind of like setup, like, what are your thoughts on it? Like, what are your recommendations for like a growing entrepreneurs in being that person that kind of team follows?
Well, certainly. I mean, we've never had any staff problems as such, because all our staff are professional IT people or have been professional IT people, and everything from that point of view, has been very clear. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, I think that another very key factor is making sure you retain your clients as long as possible, by offering them an exceptional service, because that's also sort of very, very important. You also have to manage the business to make sure that you're obviously generating enough sales and generating enough cash, to keep solvent. That's very important also. So we've always been, very tight on things like debt collection and so on, in making sure we haven't run up, large amounts of debtors, because cash flow, I think, in any business is probably the key factor. I think most companies go bust not because they lack sales, but because they lack cash flow, and the money to service their debts and pay their staff. So we've always taken that to be a very important part of how we run the business. And it's certainly one reason, why we're still in business 23 years later.
So in terms of the cash flow then, and ensuring it's like, it's flowing.
Yes.
Cash flow would.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just thinking about other businesses in our building, in our community, that have a software business. And they have a clients that might sign up for like a monthly or annual subscription.
Yeah.
And then, as always, you try to keep the retention as high as possible.
Yes.
And I know that retention in your business, it's like 100% pretty much, right?
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you retain your customers at such a like high level?
Well, we've retained our customers, as I mentioned, mainly by offering them a good service. They also use the packaged product we own, and that is a very stable product, and it does the job for them. It's a very specialist product. We work mainly with apparel and textile companies, and the product has been designed and operates very much with those companies in mind in terms of their business processes. So. And the product itself is very, very comprehensive. I mean, it covers virtually every business process that particular company who's using it requires. In fact, the product is so comprehensive that we haven't got a single client who uses the whole product. The product is modular, so they simply take modules that apply to them, and we just bolt them together, and they then use the product. And once you use any big enterprise system for a significant amount of time, it's very, very difficult to move away onto another system anyway, because the amount of work required in terms of moving all the data across and stuff like that is, can be quite traumatic in some ways. So that's one reason why, if you provide a good service, companies using your systems will stay with you, for a long period. Of course, we've lost clients in the past, as most companies would do. Few of our clients have also gone bust, as some companies do tend to do anyway. But in the main, we've retained the clients we wanted to retain, and 23 years later, we're still trading. Well, right now, as far as me and my business are concerned, I'm really sort of semi-retired at the moment. So to a large extent, the business I'm running is stable, and we want to continue operating, but we have no serious plans to grow the business significantly. Mainly because, as I said, I'm just about at retirement age now anyway. So we plan just to keep the business running with the existing clients we have, making sure we continue to give them a very good service. And we will continue with that, for as long as we can.
Okay. I have a few questions for you, David, and these are around stress and mental health.
Yeah.
Because as you build business, there is a lot of people who rely on you.
Yes.
And then there is a lot of things happening in your life.
Yes.
Which are not always mentioned in a business life, right?
Yes.
And what were your ways of dealing with that stress? What did you do outside of the business to maybe relax, wind down, and bring back this energy to your life?
Certainly one of the reasons why I decided to set up on my own and during the first MBO was to gain a lot more control over what I was doing. Working for large corporate organizations, I was doing a lot of travel, working under a lot of pressure and meeting sales targets, profit targets, and so on as a senior executive with them. So one reason when I got to a certain age, was to buy a company and give myself control over what I was doing, and so take a lot of stress out of what I'd done, what I sort of had before. I also had two very young children at the time of the MBO, and I really wanted to spend a lot more time with them, which buying a company and running it myself has allowed me to do. The two very young children are now sort of 24 and 22 years of age, respectively. So I do have a bit more time on my hands now that they're sort of young adults. But that was the main reason, really. It wasn't really to buy this company out and spend a lot of time in sort of growing it and building it up to a much bigger size. I'd done all that, working for a number of IT corporates in the past. This time around, I really wanted that level of control and free time to keep the company obviously profitable and stable and cash generative, but not really to put myself under a lot of pressure, to expand the company to that extent. I'd done that before. This time around, I just wanted a lot less stress, a lot more control over what I was doing. And that worked out extremely well.
I love it. It's like whenever I hear about entrepreneurs, I associate it with working long hours, having no time for life. But I like here the approach when you buy the business, who's established, and then it gives you back your life.
That was the main idea behind me doing this, because I was already I wasn't a young entrepreneur. I was a sort of middle-aged entrepreneur. So the priorities for me at that point, were different. If I'd bought this company when I was in my 20s or early 30s, it would have been a different kettle of fish, and I would have done the 15-hour days or whatever it takes to grow the company. But this time around, I was already financially stable based on what I'd done working for large corporate IT groups. So this time around, I really wanted more free time, more time to spend with my kids, and a lot less stress. And that sort of worked out for me.
Okay, and then I have a thank you for sharing this.
Not at all.
I have a closing question then about the work environment. So we all work here at
Yes.
Salford Innovation Forum.
Yes.
And I'm sure you worked at many other places
Yes.
in your life.
Yes.
Like, what's the role of the office, in your opinion, when you build a business?
I think the role of the office is very important. Certainly, when I through my working life, I mean, there wasn't a lot of working from home. You had to work. You had to come into the office and you had to work there. And it's always been important that the office, was a comfortable and relaxed sort of place to work. And working for professional IT companies, I was lucky enough to enjoy that, right through my working career. I mean, working conditions, have always been, for me anyway, very good. Certainly when I set up the business after the MBO, my plan was to make sure that, we had a comfortable and relaxed office environment. And before we moved here to the Innovation Forum, we'd worked out of 2 other offices before. And then 9 years after the company was established, we moved here. And moving here really was a no-brainer because we had a look at the place. It had only been open for 8 months when we moved here, so we were one of the very early tenants back in 2009. And we looked at the place and we looked at the facilities and the location and the parking, and it was perfect for us. And a lot cheaper than what we were paying at other premises before. So we moved in here on the 2nd of January 2009 and have been here ever since.
And then when you think about, the development in Salford, right?
Yes.
And like the surroundings of our buildings.
Yes.
Like, what are the first thoughts that come to your mind right now when you think about Salford?
Well, that's not really been a major factor for us. I mean, really what we're looking for was office premises that were convenient for the staff, who lived in the area, in various places, inside and outside Manchester. So we had to make sure that the offices were accessible easily, to them without having to travel, having long commutes every day. And certainly the Innovation Forum and, Salford being so close to the Manchester city centre, was an ideal location for us, which most of our staff could get to, relatively easily, and which we knew, of course, they would be comfortable in, and that was why, we made the decision to move here, and that's why we've stayed here effectively because, it's been a good place to work, and we've always been, fairly comfortable and relaxed in the, in this environment.
Well, thank you for staying here for such a long time. 2009, was it right?
That's all.
Yeah. It's a significant part of your life. So thank you. And I guess I have a probably one last question. If
Sure.
That's okay. It's about, do you have any recommendations for books, resources, music, like whatever that inspired your actions as a business owner that you would recommend people to listen to, read, look at, visit?
Well, I have a big interest in the theatre, and I attend shows whenever I can. I like watching films. I like keeping fit. That's very, very important. And I belong to a health club, a spa and a gym, which I attend 4 or 5 times a week. And certainly I'd recommend anybody who's working in any sort of professional job or high pressure job to make sure that that they keep fit. That's important. I think that just about covers it. I enjoy sport very much, of course. I mean, I watch a lot of tennis, having played a lot of tennis when I was younger, and I watch a lot of football. Oh. And support a local team.
Who's the local team?
For my sins, I support Manchester United.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, David, thank you so much for today.
Not at all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Enjoyed it.